To discuss it all, we want to bring in CBS News Foreign Affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan, who is traveling with President Obama. And Margaret, we can get to discussions of the austerity measures and how they've impacted Greece in just a moment. But it was very striking, the questions and the answers the president and the prime minister received concerning the election of Donald Trump.
It was. You know, President Obama's message here has tried to be one of reassurance to world leaders, but in many ways his comments just now were speaking to some of the questions still on so many people's minds, which is how does some of the rhetoric that has been heard on the campaign trail from Donald Trump match with the message that President Obama has had out there, saying they're conflicting things. And it was interesting because President Obama said he has long recognized this anger coursing through the American electorate, which he said was tapped into by Donald Trump quite successfully, not as successfully by someone he called unconventional, Bernie Sanders, saying that there is absolutely something he recognized in terms of a reaction to globalization, as he characterized it. People upset that they've lost their jobs, that the world doesn't look like it once was, that information comes so freely and so fast through social media that it can be disorienting. These are the things that he credited in many ways with the American public embracing Donald Trump through this election. And there were parallels drawn in the conversation as reporters asked questions about elsewhere in the world. And President Obama gestured to the rise of populist movements, not only here in Greece, but also in Germany and France, elsewhere. And of course, that challenge of Brexit, which is a rejection by, in many ways, a referendum, the electorate in the UK saying they don't want to be part of the European Union anymore. And so he really talked about things in sort of a clash of views of what civilization should be right now, saying this is a reaction to globalization. It's a theme we think he will hit tomorrow when he makes a major speech to the Greek public. But President Obama overseas really can't escape American politics right now. So it was interesting to hear him also say, look, I knew there was this anger, and I tried to fix it, but he laid blame at the foot of the Republican Party in Congress, saying the GOP-led Congress wouldn't let me pass infrastructure spending bills or raise wages or expand education, and so I couldn't fix these problems. But I think in the end, he said, this will ultimately pan out to be the right bet, and the American public will eventually see that if, as he would argue, history treats him as kindly as he thinks it should.
And to that point, Margaret, it was something we really heard even as he was on the stump in support of Hillary Clinton, a reference to his own legacy and the import, as he sees it, of keeping it, of safeguarding it, if nothing else. And I was struck today, there were a couple of instances where, in fact, he made at least oblique references to his own approval ratings, which have ticked above 50% in weeks recent, and saying of Donald Trump's election, sometimes people are looking for something even if they know, if they don't know what they're looking for, and they'll opt for change even if they don't know what it will bring. There is a personal nature, it would seem, to the public remarks of the president these last few weeks.
There is, and the president was answering that question of, do you see the election of Donald Trump as a direct repudiation of basically everything you've said you've tried to do for America, whether it was expanding health care or engaging diplomatically rather than militarily in the world. And the president, in that response today, was saying, no, ultimately, look at my popularity ratings, look at what you see when you look at polling data, and Americans generally approve and actually feel good about some of what I've tried to do. However, as we saw with the election, his popularity didn't translate into votes for the woman he thought would be his successor, Hillary Clinton. And if anything, in those remarks today, President Obama recognizing that there was somebody running, at least on the Democratic Party ticket, if not a Democrat, who did recognize all those things that he himself saw among the American electorate, and that was that anger he talked about that Bernie Sanders was able to tap into. So it was interesting to see him say, look, somebody did get it, but it didn't actually get there. So the president, really, you have to realize he is very much aware of what the Trump presidency could mean for his legacy, because so many of Donald Trump's signature items revolve around repealing everything that President Obama has done in terms of Obamacare, in terms of the Iran nuclear deal, in terms of climate change agreements. So we will see now elected, and once he does take office, if Donald Trump translates that campaign rhetoric into those kind of actions.
You mentioned that speech he will be delivering tomorrow, and again, this stop in Greece is the first of 3 stops, 3 different countries on his final trip as a sitting United States president. And I know you will be with us throughout it all. Foreign Affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan in Athens, as always. We very much appreciate the insights.